Hi, my name is Chuck Coursey. I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator for the proposed Mystic River Bluffs project here in Groton. I'm joined today to talk about the proposed Mystic River Bluffs project with Jeff Respler, owner of Respler Homes and, of course, developer of the proposed Mystic River Bluffs. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you.
And also joined by our friend Ray Kehrhahn, who is a real estate financial economist for the project and works on the project. Thanks for being here, Ray.
Thank you.
So, Jeff, I thought we'd start at the beginning, and maybe you could, and Ray, please feel free to join in. Tell us a little bit about how this property came to your attention and how this process all began.
Well, sure. And then we'll go into a little bit of an overview of the project itself. So this was state-owned land. It's around 77 acres in total of the actual Mystic. It's called the Mystic Education Center. Mm-hmm. It was originally the Whipple Oral School, but we'll go into that a little bit later. In 2017, we were apprised of this piece of property that it was being offered for sale. The state actually was trying to sell it for like 30 years, but they got together, which was, I guess, the smartest move with the town, and started working with the town together to market the property. And so we saw it in 2017. The state, in conjunction with the town, put out an RFP, a request for proposals, on this project, basically giving developers a free hand to express what their visions could possibly be for this piece of property. That came out sometime mid to fall or so of 2018. Yeah. It was due, I think, March of 2019. So we handed in the proposal, and then there were 3 different rounds of interviews. I guess as they whittled down the different developers and their ideas and voted on between the state and the town. We were finally selected as the preferred developer of this project towards September or so of 2019. I know November of 2019 was when the state went into contract on the property with the state. And then I believe the developer's agreement to stipulate what our responsibilities are, et cetera, the town's responsibilities, that was adopted in early 2020, I believe.
Yeah, so just to clarify, it was the state of Connecticut owns the property now. Correct. Sold the property. You don't have complete ownership of it now, but you have the right. Right.
Well, we're in contract. Right. Like when you buy any piece of property, you're in contract, so it's our property if we close. Yeah.
Okay. So Jeff, why don't you give us a brief overview of your plans?
So if you go back to the screen before, the Whipple, this property was created in the 1880s. It was originally called the Whipple Oral School. Mm-hmm. It was a school for the deaf. Its name changed to Mystic Education Center over time. And these are all now rebuilt buildings. The 1920s was the center portion of the complex. And then towards my left, is all the administration and boys' wings that was built around the 1940s. Mm-hmm. And then there was another addition all the way on the right that was done in the 1970s. This is on 77 acres of land. It's on a mountaintop, right overlooking the Mystic River. Yeah. It was just a beautiful piece of property when we saw it. And when we originally came to look at this piece of property, we were originally thinking about doing some sort of rehabilitation of the oral school period as some sort of rental housing. But as we walked through the building, this building was a school, like I said, for the deaf. They're very small classroom sizes, they're long, they're narrow, a lot of nooks and crannies in the building. And we just didn't see this as making sense to turn into some sort of rental housing. We racked our brains to try to figure out what to do here. What happened was we sat down and started speaking to the town. We started speaking to different business entities. We spoke to EB, we spoke to Pfizer, and to try to get what their needs and wants are. We spoke, like I said, to the town. We spoke a little bit to Page. He actually showed us the site, and it popped into my head that this is so much more than just an old building that needed to be rehabilitated.
Yeah.
And what we said was, the concept is, and we can go to the next screen before we go into that to show you the property. You have the brown is the Oral School and all of its around property going all the way up to Oral School Road to the north, the left, north, right. And then you have, in the green is also part of this property going all the way down to the river, including the river launch. That's all the Oral School. Like I said, it's a 77-acre piece of property. And what we said was, you know, since this is pretty remote, you got the state park and the town, that's the town and the state right next to it. And we were going to give the entire hillside to back as an easement to DECD, since two sides of it is already bordered by state park. There's a small, on the southern side, there's a small community, we call it the Boulder Court or Hancock Drive community. And then right after that, as you see on the bottom, is a great artery going into Interstate 95, which is, so we're far enough away from it where you don't hear the noise, but yet we're very close to it. So it just popped into our head that somehow the way this is designed and set up, this would be a great New England village. You know, the Oral School itself would be like the Main Street USA. Why would that be a good use for it? Because, you know, when you have stores and when you have, offices, they can go into all kinds of nooks and crannies. They can have an open office space, and all the nooks and crannies can be used, as compared to rental housing where you need a kitchen, you need a bathroom, you need a bedroom. It didn't formulate. So I said, wow, that would be a great idea to set that up as Main Street USA, and then build a community around it. Have the first floor of that be retail establishments. For the community, like a Main Street would be, a downtown. Yeah. You would have coffee shop, upscale coffee shop, a market. You come home from work, you need bread, you need vegetables, you need fruit. Not a Stop and Shop, but right. More your basic necessities that you would need, your staples. Yeah. And other uses like a restaurant down there, and we started thinking, EB, has a big problem retaining labor. They're saying that that new generations coming up now and are Gen Zers, and they're called Gen Zers and millennials, they want a different type of lifestyle. I don't know if you've been to Hartford, and after work they come down from the towers. The big skyscrapers in Hartford, and they hang out on the first floor by the pubs, and they meet their friends. They talk for hours after work. New York City is like that. I'm sure in Boston and all the same way. They're not looking to go home to a two-family home, apartment, right. Or even to a building at 4:30 when they come out of work. They're looking for a lifestyle. And we said, why? We can create the lifestyle right here that will retain the needs of Pfizer and Electric Boat. And when we were speaking to the town, they were telling us that they're, usually in a town, they have the housing, but they don't have the employment. Right. Employment somewhere else, they have the housing. Here, it's just the opposite problem. Here, they got the employment, but they said 80% of the people that are employed by Pfizer and EB, and there's my, Ray is the statistician and the economist, so if I'm saying something wrong, I'm just, have them jump in.
But that's a big problem. Most communities, they're looking for the jobs to come to their community.
Correct.
Groton has the jobs.
Right, but what's happening is the money is going out to all the other communities. Right. The economic power of all the money being generated by these businesses is going out of the neighborhood. And the reason is because there's just no housing that the Gen Z or millennial would want. Right.
So by providing a home for these folks, they're more apt to spend their dollars in Mystic and Groton, as opposed to moving out to Ledyard or somewhere else far beyond.
Correct. even all the way down to Old Saybrook, right? And
They go to-
Hartford.
Yeah, go to Hartford. Old
You know,
Saybrook.
where they have that type of lifestyle.
Yeah.
So what we said was, well, that would be a great idea. Why don't we set up the first floor, like the restaurant? There'll be a pub in it. You know, after work they would come, they would congregate, they'd meet their friends there, be a little bit of socializing going on there, and we have coffee shops if they don't want to drink after work or whatever. And then a prize possession of this, besides the oral school, is a building called the Pratt Building,
Yes.
which is a huge 40,000 square foot recreation center. A lot of people in Groton are familiar with that building because when I speak to people, they say, as children, they swam there. It's been closed for like 15 years already. But it was just a beauty. They have lots of nice memories of that building. It's a gorgeous recreation center. Gen Zers, millennials are eco-conscious, they're into health, they're into working out. So, you know, we said, wow, that would be great. You know, we would work with the town. That's way too big, that building, for the development. It's really made for a town.
For town, exactly.
So we said, why don't we work something out with the town to have some relationship where they would control the bill, but it would be used by the entire town of Groton as well as the community. And so we said, well, it even falls in further because, you know, here they'll meet, they'll socialize after work at the restaurant.
Yeah.
They'll go back, we'll have apartments, you know, in the village. They'll go to their apartments, get dressed for working out. They could either go into and swim and work out or play basketball, paddleball. There's all kinds of stuff in that building. There's a beautiful theater in there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We've heard a lot of, you know, folks that would love to see part of that turned into. There's already a theater in there, but maybe repurposed for the community. So
Yeah,
there's a lot of things that are being talked about.
Right, and that's very nice theater. And it's not too big, it's not too small.
Yeah.
It's, you know, and it could also be used for many different. You could show movies there even, or
Absolutely.
whatever when it's not being used as a theater.
And again,
screen comes
it's
down.
it's for the entire Groton community, not just for people that live here.
Correct.
But this would be a public facility open to everybody.
Right, similar to the Groton Library, and
Exactly.
you know, and again, that's up to the town how they're going to
Yeah.
do it. Their Parks and Recreation are going to run it, control it, and whatever their rules and regulations are. But we said, well, but people in the community that are right here, they could take advantage of that as well.
Yeah.
They live in the community, and they would go. They would quickly change their clothes, work out for an hour or so. This is what, you know, I don't know if you remember when you were younger. That's what I used to do when I was younger.
Absolutely.
And burn off that energy. Then you're just walking right back to your apartment, getting showered, getting dressed, and from there you could either, you know, we're going to have some sort of a trail that's going to run down to River Road and the launch, and we're 1.2 miles from downtown Mystic, so they could either walk there. There'll be electric bicycles because they're also eco-conscious. Like I said, they're well familiar with those modes of transportation. And they can go down there, or they could stay right on the premises and hang out at the restaurant and pub again.
Yeah, you're talking about a true mixed-use community. We see a lot of them throughout Connecticut.
Correct.
And it's relatively new over the last 15 years, but they're incredibly popular. They fit in well with the neighborhood, and high in demand.
Yes, and what's even better, like in the mixed use, is the upper stories. Again, I said the shape. You know, a lot of people have toured this building, right? They understood what, you know, they were looking at, and they understood what I'm trying to portray about it. They're great for offices, or, you know, a lot of times, as now you see what's going on, you know, post-COVID, people have WeWork spaces up there, which are individual little booths that they can sit in if they don't want to work in their apartment because it's too cramped, or their people, you know, they can have these little booths that are right there, you know, walk a block, and they're up there. There's a lot of demand. You know, EB, as you know, is growing exponentially right now, and it will be for the next 20 some odd years, easily, right? Yeah. You know, they're going to have a lot of different subcontractors that they're going to need, so that could be office space for them. So there's many different uses for the upper floors, and they'll also be able to go down to the first floor and enjoy the, you know, you want to call it a mall, you want to call it, you know, shops, whatever you want to call it down there. They'll also enjoy that. So there'll be like a symbiotic synergy between the apartments, between the oral school, between the nature and the grounds, you know, the river. And we thought this would be a great project to promote and handle some of the issues that are with the business community by retaining labor. They'll love to stay here. It'll be designed for them, as well as the town, because the money is now going to be spent here
Yeah.
instead of going somewhere else. If they need dry cleaners, they're going to go to the closest dry cleaners. You know,
exactly. I was going to mention the dry cleaners. So you're not. And again, the retail at the Oral School is not meant to compete with what's going on in downtown Mystic or anywhere else in Groton. It's really the types of things that we know the residents of the community would want to utilize. Maybe a mail service kind of place,
right,
where Amazon or whoever can drop off
they get packages, and they can also
dry cleaners. Everybody loves to eat, you know, a nice restaurant with a bar, you know, a
coffee shop.
Yeah.
Upscale.
So it's more.
You work out, you come out, you want to get a coffee,
yeah,
a little sandwich, you want to talk to your friends.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm talking about people from the greater Groton community,
yeah,
or,
sure.
or you know, after they work out, they don't want to run back home. They could shower in the Pratt Building. There are showers and saunas, steam rooms. You know, well, sauna, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And they can then hang out and either eat lunch, you know, in the restaurant, or they can have coffee and speak to their friends as an outdoor cafe. It's meant to be a lively, bustling, not noisy,
right,
but a lively, bustling community that has life to it.
Right.
So if you go now, we'll jump between screens.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, we've talked about the existing Oral School property. I see we have this property here to the left, and I know that was built in response to some of the concerns that folks had about traffic to accommodate another means of.
Right. So when we first, as part of our RFP,
mm-hmm,
we had a pretty detailed conceptual plan that showed the layout of the community, the idea, the whole synergy,
yep,
and it was 750 apartments, and we actually, that was announced and shown to the community as soon as we signed the contract with the state, which was in November of 2019. Yes. We had it in Town Hall.
Yeah.
We, after that, did some community outreach to the homeowners in the community, as well as across the street. You see the Highlands and the communities above it.
Yeah.
It was done in, I think, their library.
School.
There's a school up there. Yeah. And, you know, the concerns were, we have a private road right now called the Oral School Road that's part of the complex that comes out, and it goes straight down, and then it comes down to Cow Hill Road, but on the north, which is a much larger road, will come up to Cow Hill, and then you would have to come all the way down Cow Hill Road. No, come down Cow Hill to get to the highway. Come all the way down, and then you'd have to go down there and come onto the highway down there. So their concern was that Cow Hill Road would get a little bit busy, Oral School will get busy, there'll be a lot of traffic. They also felt that a lot of people are going to want to travel down the lower Oral School Road and, you know, disturb their quiet community. So traffic was a very, very big concern. Yes. So what we did was we thought about it, and we said, you know, again, these are ideas that take time to formulate, but we said, well, if we purchase some property next door to the development, we can actually create another roadway to get out of the development. That'll bring us right up onto Mystic Street. And we'll show you that in the, right there, exactly. We'd cut right through that property, bypass the entire lower Oral School Road, and come right out into Mystic in an open area that's a block and a half from the highway. Yeah. So there's a huge gain in traffic flow. It's not going through all the communities above.
And it's not going past many. I mean, obviously we go past some of the residential homes in Mystic River Bluffs community, but limited. You know, once you come out of the property.
Yeah, you're coming straight down, right into the highway over there. And if you want, now we could show, just to get, so we could show you what our plan and how it evolved. And again, you know, we've said it at every single meeting. We've said it, you know, the town has said it too.
Yeah.
Every time they've ever spoken about this project. This is a conceptual plan.
Right.
It is our best effort to show this community without it being too large, believe it or not, because these are all 4-story buildings or podiums, except for one, which we could talk about a little bit later on. And we wanted it to be in with nature. This is, you know, we're going after an eco-conscious audience.
Yeah.
And we wanted this to match that type of environment. So if you notice, there's a lot of green in this community. And there's a huge village green in the center that's going to be used towards community affairs, farmers markets, art shows, anything could be used over there. And then, you know, the oral school we spoke about, the community around it. There's a beautiful pond on the property that we could put, you know, some swings around and a park setting, and you can maybe even have some paddle boats in there. You know, we have to see. And we created this new ring road by buying this whole property that we just spoke about. So you're coming up Mystic, and you're coming right onto this road. You're bypassing all the traffic from the communities above, and then you're coming right in there. And the ring road will continue to go all the way out to Upper Oral School Road. So depending if you're going to go north, you're going to go to Gold Star Highway or beyond. You're going north, you're going to go up that way. If you know, most of the business people that are going to work will be going to the south and the southern exit and coming down Mystic to get onto I-95. So we thought, wow, that was a great idea. And we created right next to the Pratt Building. The Pratt Building is that B building, which is the recreation center. Right next to it, and the D is where we created a parking garage in there. So cars will come right off the highway, come right into our new ring road, and then pull right into this parking garage. From here, you can walk across the street and go to the recreation center, or you can come again across the, you know, the smaller street, or the same, you know, to the left, and go into the oral school and enjoy all the benefits of the atmosphere of the oral school. Again, that's for the entire community as well as the people that are in this development. That's an overview. If you notice, we built a lot of buildings. These are 4-story over podium, so they're not huge skyscraper, whatever you want to call it. I mean, some people say we're building skyscraper. I mean, it's not designed that way. It was never intended that way. There is a building over the parking garage, because we thought it's a beautiful view of the Mystic River. That is a little bit taller because it's built over the garage. We're trying to hide that garage a little bit. If you see, there's some line of buildings in the front. We don't want this big garage facing the oral school, because, you know, it's just the oral school has some history and character, and you don't want this monolith parking garage there. So we lined it with buildings in the yellow, as you see, in front of the parking garage that will be within character of the oral school. So they'll all blend together. You won't be able to see the parking garage. Another design element that we put in here. Again, there'll be some sort of a stone walking trail down to the water, and that entire 34-acre piece, or whatever, 37 on that entire hillside, to keep it looking the way it does now, will be turned over as a conservation easement.
Absolutely. And also, I know there's been, you know, some confusion, especially sometimes in social media. There's no road that goes from this property down to River Road. No access whatsoever.
No access. We're not going to ruin that. The community we're trying to create is with nature. We're not here to destroy the entire. As a matter of fact, this entire community here, you know, the entire Mystic Oral School is built on land that's already had the trees. You know, it's already developed land. So we're not knocking down. You know, there's a couple of trees in the center, 2 or 3, 4, whatever, of trees that are in the center there that might have to come down. But the basic entire community is already treeless. So, and we're working within that, and then we're putting trees back in, as you see, throughout the entire community. But we're not coming in and de-logging, is it called, or destroying deforesting the entire area. Now, on the new road that we developed, so that we can create this traffic pattern and protect the, you know, surrounding communities, we are going to be knocking down some trees, because it is a forested piece. But, you know, we have to do that to create the road, and then at the same time, since it's a little bit more of an urban community, suburban community, I should say. You know, we built lower density housing over there. They're basically townhomes, 3-bedroom townhomes, and duplex homes. So they have private backyards. Some of them have communal front yard, but it's a little bit more of a private setting. It's made a little bit more for families. We actually spoke to, I believe it was Pfizer, right? Are they in Old Saybrook?
Well,
Where they
Pfizer and EB are sending folks far away that
Right.
have families in order to have housing that matches the needs of those families.
You mean employees that work there or consultants, they're sending them to?
They're sending them to Old Saybrook, they're sending them, basically they're having to drive 30, 40 minutes to.
It's not even great. I mean, it's not even great locations, I believe.
Yeah.
So, here it's a completely wooded setting.
Right.
And we also protected the homeowners because we left a lot of the woodlands around the property line. And also on the bottom for the Hancock Drive, those are regular backyards like you would have in any regular home, 40, 50, 60-foot backyards. Let children can play. So we designed it to, care about the community that we're in. Like I said, all this traffic will not be congesting all their roads. They're all coming out and they're going basically onto I-95 or they're shooting up to the Gold Star Highway and then, splitting out that way.
Great. You started to talk a little bit about how eco-friendly that the property is. What else? I know that there was some contamination already.
That's anything that was built before 1970 has some contamination in it. As a matter, there's asbestos here, there's lead here, there's some other, contaminants that have to be cleaned up on this property. Obviously, that's our job. We're going to tackle it. There's also, like I said, just the way we design this community, we're improving it eco-wise by adding in all the trees and all the greenery as compared. Now it's all grass, so we're not taking away, but we're adding more trees, and we're also leaving that entire, I told you, 30 some odd acres in perpetuity. Is that the right? Perpetuity. Okay. For so that it should be left. And continue. And that will be walking trails too, which will be enjoyed by the community. As a matter of fact, there'll also be connections to the state and townland as well. So there'll be hiking and walking trails through that area. And not only that, but the homes themselves are going to be obviously Energy Star, but they're going to be better than Energy Star homes. We're looking at solar, a lot of solar here. We're talking about flat roofs. So there's solar thermal, the solar PV. We're talking to, there's no gas in this community right now. And we're talking with Eversource to bring gas to the community, and which will help out all the homeowners in the area because obviously it's a lot cheaper than diesel. But for us, what makes it so great is that, and for the Pratt Building especially, we can develop cogen here, which is called cogeneration. Basically using two uses out of the same fuel to make it much more efficient. So we would actually produce, if we're able to do that and bring gas there, we could actually produce our own, or some of our own electricity and heat to heat the buildings. And also, believe it or not, I don't want to get into all the technology, but heat actually can cool with chillers. So even during the summer, they will actually cool the buildings and produce electricity for the development. So we're looking at those as well, which fits right in. We're going to have these bicycle stands that are set up here. They're going to have 30, 40 eco-conscious bicycles that people can run around in, and we're aiming this towards being an eco-conscious community.
Excellent.
I'll point out one other thing. When you look at this plan, this concept, one of the things you'll notice is there's very little parking lots. Surface parking. Yeah. So Jeff and the engineering team did a lot of work to design this project so that water stays on the site. It doesn't go off-site. You don't have massive parking lots generating lots of heat from the sun. Parking is predominantly underneath the buildings, and I think that's an important consideration. People that live in an apartment, they don't want to look out their window and see a field of cars.
Which is most of the developments now.
So if you look around today at even the new projects that have been built, they're all surface parking. Here, parking is underground. People look out of their buildings, look out of their units, they're seeing the forest, they're seeing the river, they're seeing downtown Mystic maybe. nice vistas.
Yeah, excellent.
And a community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
You talked a little bit about utilities. Let's talk a little bit more about that, about gas and water. And
Sure.
I know that's, people want to make sure that whatever happens here does not impact their sewage capacity, take away from it, make sure that there's still adequate water pressure. Can you talk to some of those things?
Sure. So this is designed using municipal water and municipal sewer. We're not using septic systems here or ground well water to service the habitable units and the offices. It's all going to be municipal water, municipal sewer. All that is designed. It's all calculated. It's well regulated, and also it's defined. It's well known today. Water has been around for 100 years. They know exactly what it's going to take to feed this community with water and to make sure that none of the surrounding communities have any deficient pressure or lack of water. They won't approve the project unless there's an adequate water supply.
There's certain standards, there's certain requirements you're going to need to meet in order to get your approval when it comes to those.
Correct.
Yes.
And they work in conjunction with us to make sure that they can meet those goals, and if they can't, then the project needs to be redesigned. Additionally, the same with sewer. The capacity for the sewer, it has to be designed, has to make sure the sewage lines have proper flow to them, depending on the number of units that are going to be approved here. And this is all, again, a well-known science. There will be no, some people are saying that it's going to back up in the storm sewers. I think they were saying it's going to back. First of all, they're not connected, but no, this is all well designed for all the sewage to flow to the treatment center.
Excellent.
And if it can't, it can't be built.
Exactly. Exactly. The size. I mean, we talked about all the great things that are going on the project, whether it's the preservation of the former oral school, the redevelopment and repurposing of the Pratt Building. Tell us about how you came to the number of units, the unit count.
Sure. So this is a village. That's really what it is, a self-contained village within the community of the town of Groton. The oral school, I don't know if people that have seen it say, go my oh my, how are you going to rehabilitate this building? The Pratt Building, this takes a huge amount of money to rehabilitate that. The apartments on this complex are like any other apartment complex, and they can stand on their own. They can be built, they're profitable, but not the oral school, not the Pratt Building. So financially, you need to have enough units on the site so that there's enough profit from the apartment buildings to support twofold. One is the developers to put money in, and there's also going to be a little bit of TIF on this property. And you need some sort of a real estate tax source of money to pay for that TIF, to help design and rehabilitate these buildings. So you need a certain amount of density. Just as important, you need to support the retail establishments of the complex. So in order to do that, you need to have a certain mass of people, shopping in the market every day.
Yes.
Shopping, the coffee shop, the restaurant. There needs to be a certain density of people that are local, and then, then you get extras from the entire community. But it's like any other downtown. They're built around the community so that a lot of people are walking into that downtown district, and the same thing needs to be here. So there needs to be a certain amount of density. Again, there's a lot of talk. This is 931 units. 80 or so are executive style housing to fulfill some of the needs. Pfizer flies people in for a year and a half. They found the family, they need to be here. They want to have a nice place to live. The other part of it, the main campus, the Mystic Education, or now it's Mystic River Bluffs, but the Mystic Education portion of what was the Mystic Education is, going to be mostly 1- and 2-bedroom apartments. And it's designed so that there should be enough density to support these shops. But again, the plan is conceptual. Can the numbers sway a little bit? We've always said they could sway a little bit. But there is a certain amount of density that you need in order to support this, and then you start losing some of the services and benefits of a mixed-use community.
Right. It's kind of like the argument I hear in my hometown where people say, well, we'd love a Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's is a very set formula how much density needs to be around that store in order to support it. And if it's not there, it doesn't matter how charming a town might be, they're not going to go there.
Right.
The same thing is with the small gourmet market like that. If you're not going to find an operator unless they know there are going to be X amount of customers readily available to them every day in that area.
Obviously, much smaller scale than a Trader Joe's.
Much smaller store. Yeah, we're talking exactly much smaller. What about, and speaking of downtown Mystic, which is only a mile away?
Someone corrected me. They said 1.2 miles away.
1.2 miles away.
It depends on where you measure from.
Exactly, right, or as the bird flies. There, again, read some places that people are concerned about the impact on on the downtown Mystic. What are your thoughts on that in terms of how this project may or may not?
I mean, it's so hard because every time there's one that something else comes up. But the relative area of downtown Mystic compared to the proposed number of units here, it will be a negligible effect on the town. Besides that, there are, within a 20-minute area or so, there's like almost 20,000 apartments. And they're all,
we'll have the rail get into that in a little bit.
But they're all going to downtown Mystic as well. And so this is not going to be any kind of, it's a couple of percentage points, and everyone's not going down there at one time. So in our opinion, and we'll do more studies on it, but we don't think it's going to have an impact at all. Besides the fact that I think the business community down there will enjoy extra business. And that's the whole point of that the money should be spent in Groton. I don't know all the particulars, but I would think during the winter months they have a lot less volume than during the summer, and
especially
this will even it out.
Between Labor Day and Memorial Day, there's a lot of time in between where Mystic is not as crowded.
Right, and this will even keel it a little bit.
Yeah. Ray, did you have something you wanted to?
Yeah, I did. One of the things that this project is designed to do, and one of the primary reasons for this project is because of the growth of employment in southeastern Connecticut. Over the next 10 years, between Electric Boat, Orsted, and a number of other companies and suppliers, sub-suppliers to EB are moving into the area, we're going to see job growth in the southeastern Connecticut in the range of 22,000 folks, new jobs coming into the area. Massive increase. There's a lack of housing that matches the need for those 22,000 new employees will want. This project is designed to serve that. Most of those folks will be age 22 to 35, the majority. They'll be older ones. The older ones obviously will be executives and whatnot, and the lower portion is designed to serve them. An interesting characteristic of the Gen Zs and millennials who are in that age group is that they are very eco-conscious. So they're not going to be driving downtown. A lot of them don't own cars. They use Uber, they use Lyft, they use other sources of transportation. They use electric bicycles today, electric skateboards, you name it. So there's not going to be a rush of traffic into downtown Mystic. You're not going to see that. What you will see is on Thursday night or Friday night, people going to the restaurants, going to the bars. Will all of them go? No, but a portion of them will, and they'll be going year-round. They're not just be going during the summer months. I looked at something interesting over the last couple of days. Mystic Seaport, during the summer, they bring in 5,000 to 7,000 visitors a day. We're talking maybe 2,000 people here, but Mystic already sees this burst of people coming in on an ongoing basis. And what we're talking about here is an incremental addition. And
talk a little bit more about that incremental. What's the if you were going to look at the Groton area and beyond in terms of apartments?
Yeah. Okay. Interesting question. So Groton, if you were to take a center point and say people are willing to drive 20 minutes, okay, there's 20,000 apartments existing already.
Apartment units.
Apartment units, multifamily apartment units. Now, some of those are in duplexes, some of them are in triplexes, but the majority are in congregate facilities.
Multifamily communities, yeah.
And one of the things we're seeing is that we have this bubble of employment over the next 10 years. It's already started. It's already having a major impact on rents inside that 20-minute radius. One-bedroom apartments, if you can find one, a new one today is $2,150 in Stonington. Much higher than we had initially projected.
We're actually going to bring it down.
Yeah. So one of the things that this project does is we're adding, 900 as it's currently conceived. So we have to just talk about what's currently conceived. We're basically adding 4.6% to the inventory, gross inventory in the town. Not a lot, when you look at it on that basis, within a 20-minute radius. Then importantly, we're building luxury apartments, Class A apartments. Right now, in that 20-minute radius, there are no Class A apartment units. They're Class B. You could maybe say they're Class B plus, two properties. So people are having to travel to find those kinds of places to live. And we're not going to see, so people are concerned, well, wow, this is a lot of units to bring to market. But when you look at the big picture, it's a small number, and it's a small number that will have an impact on rents because people will move out of the Class B units that want to have the style of living here. I've seen this before. It's not the first, it's not our first rodeo with this. We've seen it before.
Right.
So people that are putting up with, if you will, units that don't match their needs, when their lease comes up, they're going to rent here. It's going to have the impact will be you'll have more units available in Class C, Class B. Rents will probably go down a little bit, not a lot, because we have this huge inflow of people coming. But this will help to attract the employees that Pfizer wants, that EB wants. And some people have said, well, a blue collar, a welder, or an electrician that's working at EB, they couldn't afford to live here. That's not the case. Okay, between their base salary and their overtime, people are going to easily be able to afford this. So.
That's great.
Do we know, I don't want to put you on the spot, how many apartments are in Groton itself? Because out of that 20,000, most of that money is surrounding towns, right?
No, there's a significant portion. There's like,
there is?
Yeah. There's, I would say about 9,000 are located in Groton itself. But Groton, unfortunately, most of that product was built in the 1970s, 1960s, a couple in the 1980s, one in 1994, the Ledges, and then most recently there's a project that came online at the south entrance to the sub-base that's designed to serve the Mariners. I think it's Pleasant Valley, 132 units.
Okay.
There's others in the pipeline, but we're adding luxury apartments, and there's very strong demand for luxury apartments.
Right.
And also, I think one of the things that we don't talk that much about, but it's a phenomenon that happens all the time, it's very consistent, is that when people move to a community like Mystic River Bluffs, fall in love with the area, they get a little older, and they want to put down some roots, they want to buy a home. Where are they going to buy a home? They're going to buy a home in that neighborhood.
Yeah. Because of the amenities, they're going to be used to the amenities. They're going to have built their own personal networks, their relationships. People don't want to move an hour away. They're going to want to move inside Groton. If you look at the demographics in Groton, it's a much older population. People will be retiring.
Watch what you say. I think you're getting close to.
Well, I'm there.
Yeah, we're all there. Yeah,
we're all there. But my point is, people will be making changes. Over time, over the next 20 years, the demographic makeup of Groton will change because, EB has a huge retirement. People are retiring from EB.
Yeah.
There's a whole generation there, and some of those 18,000 workers that EB is looking to hire will replace those people that are retiring. But they're going to be retiring. They're going to be moving south, moving somewhere else, wanting to sell their homes. This is like an incubator, homeowner incubator.
Absolutely.
And they'll be buying homes in the local community.
Absolutely.
One of the things that people really don't understand is this massive buildup at EB. This is for the next 40 years. EB is going to be building these submarines for the next 40 years and maintaining them. It's not a blip in the pan. And some people have said, well, what happens if the political environment changes? Well, if you're reading the articles today, in the last 2 weeks, 4 top officials from Washington have been up here, including the Undersecretary of the Navy, touring EB and touring the local communities because it's so important to our defense going forward.
Right. And you can't get much different in different political changes that we've had over the last year.
Yeah.
And it's one thing they both agreed on.
Exactly.
Is the need for the strong military and what's going on in Groton.
And then one of the reasons they were here is this infrastructure bill that is all being talked about in the press. A significant portion of those dollars is to train workers, and Groton, New London is going to, I can't, it was a huge number. It's like $38 billion coming in to this area that's proposed to train workers so that EB can fulfill on its mission to provide the next 40 submarines.
Ray, can you talk a little bit more about some of the financial benefits that the project will bring in terms of tax revenue to the town?
Sure. So as it's currently configured, one of the things that, a couple things will happen. One is probably a majority of the people that live here will be employed at Electric Boat or in the other businesses in the local community. And what we're seeing is that we'll have about $134 million. Those are rough numbers, but somewhere in that range of dollars, employment dollars being retained in Groton. 134 million is a large number.
So that's the payroll of everybody that's working.
Yes.
That's living there.
Correct. 134 million.
Wow.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Now, of that, so people are saying, well, they spend that on housing, they spend it on fuel, they spend it on groceries. So they spend a lot of that money, and that money will be spent in the local community.
Yeah.
That number's in the $95 million range. A lot of money that gets, and it'll be a big boost to the economy in the local area. Rather than that money driving out of town every night, going to Ledyard, going to Norwich, going to Salem, wherever, Old Saybrook, East Lyme, it'll be in Groton.
Great. What other benefits in terms of?
So when we're talking about the employment, because we're going to have offices and markets and restaurants and other kinds of services in the Oral School itself, the Oral School building, based on our projections and based on the kind of businesses that we're going to have there, will have a payroll, whoever's there, somewhere in the neighborhood of $25 million. So just on the property alone, it'll be generating a payroll of $25 million.
And how about property taxes?
Property taxes, we've estimated from the beginning somewhere in the neighborhood of $3.8 million. That is subject to change. The markets are changing. Right now we're working with the town. We're working with the town's consultants to figure out what the actual numbers will be. But kind of at the bottom, it'll be 3.8 and probably north of there. We don't know yet at this point, but it's a big number.
Yeah, we've covered a lot in this discussion today. Before we start wrapping up, I want to see if there's anything else.
I think I want to add one other thing here. When people wonder, and I understand they wonder, wow, 931 units. Where are we going to get these people from? Well, if we just look at what the current state of the market is, if we look at all the properties that have come online in the last 4 years, we have 3 vacancies. There's 600 and how
Three
many?
vacancies
In 650 units of new construction.
Okay.
As of today.
Wow.
Today I did it.
In Groton.
In Groton, no, in the 20-minute drive time.
Okay. Yeah.
So that includes Groton, New London,
That's even more.
East Lyme, and Stonington.
Of the new buildings.
Yeah.
These are the new buildings. I'm not talking about the whole.
B plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So people are having a hard time finding a place to live today. As they move into this area, I've heard it multiple times, many times. I go to the barber shop, and there's a local barber down in Mystic in the Stonington section, and I told her. She was asking me what I do. Told her this, and she said, my husband and I, we just, we're having to go all the way over to Kingston, Rhode Island. Oh. And she wanted to live in Mystic, but she's living in Kingston, Rhode Island because she can't find a place to live. And they had to, obviously they have to have a place.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in the last, unfortunately, the last few months, I've been dealing with a COVID medical issue and been in Boston. And I hear EB advertising in Boston for employees.
Wow.
It tells you how far they're willing to go to get the employees to come to work at EB. And, Boston's almost 2 hours away.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So,
Not only that, but the rents have skyrocketed over the last 2 years because of the scarcity.
Yeah, the rents in the marketplace are, they're rents like they see in New York City. It's crazy what's happened to the rents.
And that's, in most cases, that's well above what this project would be.
And again, we're talking about the newer.
Yeah.
This is
where these Gen Zers want to go to. We're not talking about the Bs, the Cs.
Yeah. Anything else, Jeff, you want to touch on, or?
No, listen, there's always someone that doesn't like the project, doesn't want the project, We have always said that we will do what we can within reason and within a large percentage of reason to try to make anyone that's a local homeowner happy. Screening them, they felt that maybe there might be a lot of activity up there. We really don't think it's going to affect them because the closest building is 270 feet away. But whatever we need to do in order to, put up, fencing, if that's what it is, or screening with trees, which I would rather do, or mounds, natural, we would entertain it, and we would do it. And most probably would be required by planning and zoning, if people have concerns. So, we're here to work with the community.
Absolutely.
I guess that's we're not here to come in and shove our way in and say it's our way or the highway. But this is our concept. It's grounded, and I think there's a tremendous need for a project like this. In the surrounding areas, there's nothing that's geared towards these Gen Zers, millennials, and their lifestyle. And this is going to be a big draw for them to come to the employment in the neighborhoods.
I think one other thing that I will add is there's been some concern expressed about the values of homes in the area. People are saying, well, this is going to drive down the value of my home. I spent 10 and a half years, almost 12 years at UConn at the Center for Real Estate, did a lot of research. In the last few weeks, I've been looking at the current research with regard to the impact of mixed-use communities such as this on neighboring properties. And almost universally, not only in the United States, worldwide, when you put something like this, a Class A luxury building in a neighborhood, especially, and there's been some studies done around this too, where the housing stock is dated, it's 30, 40 years old, it actually has a huge net positive impact on the surrounding homes. Yeah. We mentioned earlier, these folks are potential homeowners. Absolutely. And as people sell their homes, people that live here are going to be buying those homes.
And I've seen it in West Hartford, where I'm from, is, during 18 years ago when Blueback Square was first proposed, and really, similar to this, in that it's a mixed use, live, work, play development. There were folks in my community that were really worried that their values were going to decline, skyrocket, and just the opposite happened. I understand. If I was a neighbor, I'd be worried about the same thing. Folks have every right to be concerned about their property values. Property values. It's the biggest investment you make. But what we're here telling folks is that has not been the history of projects like this. We need to wrap up. I want to thank you both, Jeff, Ray, for taking the time to speak with me and go over the project. Also want to invite anyone out in the community, as we've been doing all along, to please reach out to me. You'll see my contact information on the screen. We've spent a lot of time, we still continue to spend a great deal of time reaching out to folks, talking with them, providing them an overview of the project, giving them an opportunity to ask questions and raise concerns. And then that way we can go back, I can go back to you, Jeff, and talk about those concerns and see how they can be mitigated. That's how we can make this project a better project. If we know what people are concerned about, like Jeff said, we want to work with folks. We want to make this the best possible project it can be. So please, feel free to reach out to me or visit our website, visit our Facebook page. All the information is there for you to see in terms of contact, and I'll look forward to speaking with folks in the near future. With that, spring is coming, and we look forward to spending more time in Groton and Mystic. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.